the attitudes changed. Could you describe changes in the attitudes?
It started that some of the neighbors with whom I was very friendly, and we celebrated holidays together. I received Christmas presents from them. In turn, we gave them presents, although we never celebrated Christmas. I did go to their house and admired their Christmas trees and received always some goodies. It started by the neighbors telling us not to come to their house anymore. They were afraid that we should, and so if when we met in the street, we either just nodded to each other or pretended we didn't know each other at all. Suddenly in school we were required to say Heil Hitler. Instead of good morning, the teacher said Heil Hitler, and it was very awkward for me to say anything. Mostly I didn't say anything. In December for Christmas 1933, I was still in a Christmas play. I was always partaking in Christmas plays. The teacher had asked my mother whether I should, and my mother said, well, it doesn't really hurt, there's no harm done, and it's only play, why not? So I performed in a Christmas play in 1933, and no sooner was that over, a month or two later, I was in the Stürmer newspaper. I think the Stürmer newspaper is known even in this country as a very, very anti-Semitic newspaper. It was published for the sole purpose to smear Jews. They were total caricaturism, and everybody who was Jewish was made up with a big nose and fat. The women was fat and was bedecked with jewelry, and nothing but smear attacks were in that paper. So my name was in the paper, my father's name was in the paper, and that I played in a Christmas play, and the angel who played in that Christmas play was none other but the daughter of the Jew Ludoma. I also heard afterwards that the teacher who let me play in that Christmas celebration was also called on the carpet. From then on, I really knew that I was very different, that I had to be very quiet, had to be very reticent, and not to stir. We remained in our house until 1939. My father still worked. He went to Berlin every day. He commuted and worked. The change came in the real drastic change in treatment of the Jews and in attitude and restriction came in 1938 when in Paris a Greenspan assassinated the German official vom Rath. Most of the events are known because the Kristallnacht was the most obvious occurrence. The quote was that the German people were so angry that they could not help themselves but had to destroy the synagogues and had to destroy the Jewish stores, and that was all over Germany. Of course, we know better. It was the SR and the SS. We were pretty much isolated in Rangsdorf, where I lived, and I and my mother, we did not know too much what was going on in Berlin. So we heard, when my father came home from work, we heard what was happening that day in November. That the synagogues were burning, that all the remaining Jewish stores were looted, were destroyed, the windows were smashed, people were arrested, and we didn't know what would happen, and we just heard this. And about 10 o'clock on that November night, November 10th or 11th, there was a knock at our door, the entrance door of our house, and about 3 or 4 men, SA, the brown shirts, came into our house and yelled, "We will show you Jews what it means to kill our people," and they started smashing the furniture in our house, in our living room mainly. They toppled the credenza where we kept our glasses and chinaware. They smashed with an axe our dining room table. The whole thing took maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and out they were. Outside, they picked up some stones and smashed windows in the upstairs bedroom. Before we even could think straight, they were gone. I know my mother screamed, and we were just standing there helplessly. After that, we didn't know what to do anymore. We were stunned, and my mother never recuperated from that fright. My father, his relatives, his brother from Berlin called and said, "You better come to Berlin. You may be picked up since you are the only Jew and you're known, you may be picked up, you may be arrested, so maybe you don't sleep at home that night." So for a few nights he did not come home but stayed in Berlin until it calmed down. Until he calmed down. Then, of course, all the new laws were set in motion. It was very swift, as if things had been written out previously, and they just waited for an occasion to put all these new laws and restrictions into order. It was like preset, and all they had to do is push a button, and it ran off. So Jewish children were not allowed to go to public schools anymore, but they had to attend Jewish schools. My father was not allowed to work independently anymore. He had to give up his profession, and if he wanted to work, he had to be employed by a non-Jew, somebody employed him. In his case, his client became his boss. The Jews had to pay a fine for the assassination. It was 1 milliard mark. We looked it up, it's 1 billion mark. It represented about 20% of the assets of the remaining Jews in Germany. And you were assessed.